This episode is brought to you by Mountain Dew. Not really. I just have one. Alright, so what we're going to talk about is, recently Mega Capital G did a video talking about how Fire Fist were quote-unquote dead at the current time. And so this is going to be sort of like a response to that, but more in general. What we're going to be talking about is how the game kind of goes through cycles of what decks are good. One of the examples is, in the format that never actually happened, Mermail and Fire Fist just kind of disappeared.
Along with every other deck.
And after that, people took a while to try and figure out what decks were good again. In this little struggle, Mermail and Fire Fist were brought up, and then Boojins were just kind of introduced a little bit later, and then Boojins kind of took over, and the Fire Fists currently are seeing less play. Now, what I'm going to say, first of all, is that just because a deck's seeing less play does not mean that the deck has quote-unquote died. What this is going to be entitling is the fact that decks will always go through cycles, and different decks will be good and different decks will be bad. Right now we have a very strange format going on where instead of there being a solid one or two decks that are per se good, it's going to be a lot of decks that are utilizing different kind of key cards, such as currently the Hands and the Trap Tricks engines, you know? Some of the decks that are currently, I think, kind of falling off the radar are the Fire Fist and Mermail. Both of them lost a couple of cards in the last ban list, but I honestly do not think that the decks should have been killed or stopped, because they were not killed or stopped. Players are just choosing to stop playing them, just because they think that these other decks are better. I'm going to be probably the first and maybe last person to tell you that some of these decks are not actually dead, such as the Fire Fist still have amazing combos. They can do a lot of popping, they can do a lot of summoning and resummoning and pulling cards out of their grave. The fact that they can utilize the hands flawlessly is just amazing. And they have just all these different spells, traps, and monsters which boost up their really weak and strange monsters to really, really high attack. It's really, really consistent and nice.
You don't believe us? Go play the AI in DevPro.
Oh my gosh, the AI is
the AI, for crying out loud, kills me every single time with their Fire Fists. And this isn't like +1, like whatever that topped generic. A month ago. This is 3.5 Axis. Using pretty much every Fire Fist card out there, they still win all the time.
Because the deck, this deck does a really good job of choosing what it has and being able to change out what they have using different cards. Like, what was it, the Raven, did you say, or Jaguar?
Yeah, the Raven, Spirit, Tensu.
They're just able to, they're able to constantly change what they have and get different cards out and get really good synchros and monsters out. And even though certain cards in the deck are limited and certain cards in the deck are not as good, you're always able to sub in different cards, such as using the hands to constantly have monsters on the field and adding more art or different types into the set so you can use cards like the Pot of Dichotomy to recycle your one-ofs. It's just, I think that deck's really good. Another deck that's really, really good is Mermail. Mermail is a mix of Mermails and Lanterns, as you know. And they're able to do stuff involving discarding cards from their hand to the graveyard to get a lot of cards out really fast. The cards that they discard do effects like popping your opponent's cards, and then they can get more cards from using their like 4 traps that are really, really good in the deck. Now, they did lose Abyss Goon, and so what Abyss Goon does was sort of like a Monster Reborn for the deck, but that's not as big of a deal because the deck does a lot of different other things in the game. It can summon really fast, really huge monsters. They can make rank 7s without any problem, like it's their job. They can use their Abyss Megalo along with their Abysstius just to be able to pull a massive advantage onto the game. Not to mention the fact that they have stinking 2 versions of Stratos, the trap version and the monster version, which work together just to do really, really good things. I think that's just another deck that's kind of falling off the radar. This game, this was sort of just to say certain decks are not dead. At the same time, as this game goes through shifts, I could almost bet that the second some of these newer decks kind of get a little bit slower or lose 1 or 2 of their keyer cards, I can bet that these decks will resurface out of the grave. I don't really think that they need to die. They do kind of take a lot of stuff, but once again, it's easy to kind of side against things, making match fair. It's just, I don't know, we've got Prophecy that also did the same thing. They were really, really good. Literally nothing changed but Fate to 1. They were still good, and then they just fell off the cliff because apparently other decks are better. But if you disagree, tell me below why these decks are not played. If you think that just it's because everything else is much better, I'm pretty sure that the format will change and everything will be better again. Or these decks will become good again, just like with the E-Dragon format. It's just everything cycled back, and it's just a constant cycle of the game. I mean, we've even got windups and injectors able to talk, you know? Thanks for watching.
waking up.